Hey, this video is a little different. Don't worry, I'll get back to the Castlevania stuff soon, but first I want to commemorate my new microphone with something a little weirder. I'm sure you've heard of Sonic the Hedgehog before. I'm sure you've heard of Minecraft as well. Around 10 years ago, when I was still a small little lad, I was a big Minecraft enjoyer and also a big Sonic enjoyer. And through my travels on this beautiful internet, I made a custom adventure map for Minecraft called Sonicraft. It was this really obscure, fun little project made by a single guy to adapt the Sonic games into Minecraft. Granted, it was very old, and it wasn't really focused on speed like Sonic is, it was more exploration and just looking at the cool builds. You know, old school Minecraft. So the map was originally released by HWD45 in 2011 in the Minecraft forum. This was shortly before the official release of Minecraft was still in beta, so that was a long time ago. As far as I can tell, that first version only included the 6 stages from Sonic 1, but the map would be slowly updated over the next decade until what the creator calls Beta 1.4.1, the current version, which includes most of the stages from Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles. This version was seemingly released around 2013, and the map was kind of abandoned after that. The creator was active in the forums until 2022, and he apparently had a lot of plans for new updates, even rebuilding the maps from the ground up or doing other games like Sonic CD. But then he just went radio silent. I don't really know what happened past that, but his channel was active just a few months ago posting Pokemon soundtracks, so I assume he's alive. If I were to guess, I would say he probably just got tired of the idea and moved on to other things, which is perfectly acceptable. I don't think HWD had much, if any, help to build this map, and it's huge, so it makes a lot of sense that would have just burned him out eventually. As of this video, Sonicraft has gone 11 years without any major updates, which is sad, but it's still more or less a finished product. And that's where me and my video come in.
Hi guys, this is just a quick video to announce that yesterday, not today, I released the new update of Sonicraft, as a lot of you probably already know, or some of you, probably not a lot of you. Big update that's been a work in progress for nearly a year now, so you can go download it.
The version I played so many years ago was probably the last released, and though my memory's fuzzy, I believe I got up to Sonic 3 and then just kinda gave up. And ever since then, Sonicraft has stayed in the back of my brain like some distant, incomplete memory. And I thought a video of me playing through it and finally completing it would be a very good way to revisit my childhood. Also, as far as I'm aware, there's only one complete playthrough of Sonicraft on the entirety of YouTube, so I think this will be a really neat opportunity to put this forgotten relic back in the spotlight. There have been many more Sonic projects since Sonicraft, like other maps or mods, most of them much more refined. In watching this video, you see that Sonicraft is very much a product of its time, and for modern Minecraft standards, does not hold up at all. But I think it still has merit and a lot of soul. So if you're either a Sonic fan or a Minecraft fan, or hopefully both, I think you'll like this video. It comes from a very nostalgic, emotional place for me, and I hope that really gets through. Let's start, shall we? So according to the forum, the map is playable up to 1.7.10. That's before the combat update, which is still pretty old when you think about it, like 2016? Damn, it makes me feel like a fossil, honestly. Anyways, it comes packaged with 3 different resource packs, one for each game, and you're supposed to load in the first one for the start. So I did that, got myself a new skin, and jumped in. You start out on this floating platform with a lot of signs. There's special thanks to this bunch of people I don't know, and some really boring plot that doesn't actually make any sense. Apparently we were teleported to the world of Sonic after beating the Ender Dragon. Yes, the lore. Something I find really cool is that you can see Green Hill and Springyard from up here. And actually, through a lot of the map, you can see many different stages in the distance. Their positions don't really make much sense though. They're kinda just scattered about. The creator had plans for making the map into 3 separate islands that actually made geographical sense, but that never happened. I wanted to pretty up the game a bit, so I messed around with some shaders, and I deeply regret that. I had a lot of issues with shaders during my recordings. As you can see here, a lot of the packs I tried would cause this crazy flickering. I don't know why. I eventually found a shader pack that wouldn't flicker, but that had its own issues. This map has a lot of really dark areas with barely any lighting, which are hard to see in, even with max brightness. And if you've ever used shaders, they tend to make your game darker than it normally is. So through a lot of the map, I was fumbling in the dark like an idiot, pretty much blind, and sometimes even disabling the shaders would not help. I'll make the dark parts a little brighter in the video so you guys can actually see what's happening, so it should be fine. But I'm telling you all of this because many times in my recordings, I had to turn shaders off, turn them on again, or sometimes swap shaders entirely. So if the game suddenly looks different from one clip to another, that's why. I was having a really bad time with the lighting. It's one of my main gripes with this map actually. But let's not get too hasty. The first chest gives you a ring, some shoes, and a bunch of chili dogs, which are the food item in this map. They're kind of weird, actually, because most of the map is played on peaceful, so you don't need food. And you get like 1,000,000 chili dogs through the whole map. I don't think I used even a single stack by the end. Anyways, on to Green Hill Zone. Green Hill is the most recognizable level in Sonic history, and probably the best designed level in the first game, with 1,000 different paths for you to choose from. The way Sonic Craft emulates this is by making it a really big, wide open area for you to explore. The main goal of Green Hill is crafting a lever to open the door to Marble Zone, which took me a while, but I explored most of the map as a result. And here you can see the core Sonic Craft experience, roaming around and looking for chests. Or monitors, since they've been retextured. These chests can have many different items. The most common are rings, which don't really do anything, but they act as the main collectible in the map. There's some consumables like the speed shoes, which are just speed potions, or invincibility, which is actually a modified golden apple in disguise. Gives you resistance or immunity to a lot of damage. There's shields, which are pretty good, especially for fall damage. There's these pumpkin heads that give you the sonic vision. There's pictures for some reason, and there's a bunch of different weapons like a spike, a crab meat claw, the homing attack and spin dash, which are just bows, and even the time stone, which has knockback 10 for some reason. As I said before, this map is mostly played on peaceful, so the combat-oriented items aren't actually useful at all. You can use them to kill these pigs here, which are textured as motobugs, and they actually do drop little animals, which are another collectible, but they don't really fight back as they should. They just run from you. HWD intended to fully implement combat in a later update, but that also fell flat. The only part of the map that has combat is the Sonic & Knuckles portion, and as you'll see, even then it's very half-baked. These issues kind of permeate the entirety of the gameplay loop. The items you collect in the map don't have any use for you, and you find so many of them that you literally run out of inventory space. In my playthrough, I only really grabbed rings, invincibility, and new weapons that I hadn't found before, because if I grabbed everything, there would be no space left. These zones can get pretty large and intricate, but they're mostly wasted on these pointless item hunts. They're still fun, I liked going through them and seeing what they had, but this map really relies on you wanting to explore extrinsic motivation. There's no intrinsic motivation really. Or well, I guess there is one, but that also doesn't grant you anything. I'm talking about the Chaos Emeralds. Don't think I need to introduce them. The emeralds are really important in the Sonic games. They let you go super and all that. In Sonic Craft, they're not worth anything, but they're pretty well hidden and actually fun to look for. The Sonic 1 part of the map has only 6 emeralds, as per the game, so that's 1 per zone, and the one in Green Hill is just over this hill here, and apparently it used to be sitting inside a chest, but the creator changed that in this version. This button teleports you inside a special stage, which is this messy parkour section where you have to avoid hitting the floor. I really like this. It's a short, fun little challenge for the emerald. It is unfortunately the only time in the map this happens. All the other emeralds are in the stages themselves. Do wish he'd implemented more of these. By the way, you might have noticed I have the speed and jump boost effects applied. I did that just for fun, you know, so I make the game feel a little more Sonic. The jump boost does make some of the parkour later on a little easier, so I'm kinda cheating, but it's nothing to worry about. I played this map mostly for the enjoyment, not for the challenge, and I don't think it makes a huge difference anyways. I also gave myself keep inventory, so I wouldn't lose all my emeralds if I died, and turned off the day-night cycle while still in Green Hill, because I remember it could get really annoying in some of the stages. As I progressed through the map, I just manually adjusted the time of day as appropriate for each stage we got to. I think they mostly look prettier in the appropriate time of day. I haven't commented much on the actual structure of Green Hill, have I? I really like it. It's really open, there's a lot of little parkour paths to get the chests, some secrets too. The loop-de-loops are cool, even if you can't actually run through them. And yeah, I think the zone is the oldest in the map, and it really shows. It's had a lot of care put into it, much more than most of the later zones. To craft a lever, you need a cobblestone, which is right near the start, and a stick, which is off in a corner somewhere. Apparently the cobblestone used to be somewhere else, I think inside a cave, but the creator moved it somewhere easier. With those, you can craft a lever and leave Green Hill when you want to enter the underground of Marble Zone.
Oh my god, why is it so loud?
This map actually has checkpoints which reset your spawn. They're marked by these paintings on the walls, but my shader pack was messing with them, so they were kinda hard to see. Marble Zone is known to be much slower and harder than Green Hill, and this map does follow that. It's kinda like a puzzle parkour level. You start out underground, murdering bats, and you're quickly presented with a choice, right or left. I went right first, had to mess with these levers, and got to a really dark lever room that made me turn off my shaders for the first time. I said this was a puzzle zone, but it's really as simple as flicking all the levers to light the room and then open the exit. That's the entirety of the right path, just this stupid lever room. I used creative to go back, and the left path is much more interesting. It takes you outside to the temple ruins. There's a bunch of neatly hidden chests here, and also these ocelots disguised as hornets, which are apparently immune to lava. Also, I found some UFOs. It's actually just Eyes of Ender, but don't worry about it. This part's pretty straightforward, but it leads into a cool parkour area that was actually pretty scary. I dropped down to grab this chest, almost died burning, but managed to swim back through the lava with invincibility. The paths meet up after that. The last stretch just has some really easy jumps, but I recall the emerald was hidden behind this wall here. You just need to press the button and open the chest really fast. I like how Marble looks, but I think it's a bit too simple and short, and the jumps are mostly not as scary as they look, but it's the second zone, so that's fine. Springyard is next, known for its springs, which of course don't exist in Minecraft, so the creator chose to adapt it as a bunch of tall towers with parkour paths connecting them. I think it looks nice enough. The actual yard down there even has some hidden goodies and shortcuts which you can open from the other side to climb back up. I even found a passage to Green Hill here, which I did not know existed. Normally you don't want to be down here though, in fact you'll probably die if you fall. As for the stage itself, I actually kind of enjoy it. The parkour is piss easy, save for some tricky chests, but it can be fun to run around and get lost in all this stuff. The main treat is climbing up the tallest tower, which kinda looks like it leads somewhere else, but if you climb just a little further up after that, you actually find the emerald at the top. This one is pretty simple, but Casino Night and Carnival Night make it tougher in the future. The exit of Springyard is out in the open, you just need to figure out how to reach it, and it drops you neatly inside Labyrinth Zone.
Oh my fucking god, again!
By the way, the creator placed a bunch of these signs around with quotes from people I don't know, which is a weird thing. Signs in general can get very strange and a bit annoying in how they communicate to you and make dumb jokes about the stages. I don't mind them mostly, but I think they're a little cringe. Stuff like, oh, this level's so difficult, or explanations about the stages that probably should not be in the stages themselves. It's another of the minor pet peeves I had with the map. More importantly, Labyrinth here is rather rightfully hated worldwide for being a boring slog of a stage, even if you know the big shortcuts. In contrast, I think it's pretty decent in Sonicraft. At least not offensive. There's two main paths. The left one sees you jumping and diving through these wide rooms, collecting items, finding passages. Can get kinda bothersome because it is dark underwater, but I pull through. There's some interesting vine jumping, but nothing much to speak of. Oh, and a fire trap. The right path is a little better. Had to find a lever in this little cave to open a door, and then I saw this hidden double door in the next room. It was locked, but there's another passage with a button that temporarily opens it. So it's a little puzzle. You gotta press the button and swim really fast to the door. There's still a little exploration after this, and the emerald is just on the top of the final door where the paths meet up. I think this emerald is kind of badly placed, honestly, because you can only get it in a specific path, and you can't really backtrack in this zone. The doors just close behind you. Kinda shit on that front. But that's Labyrinth for you. Starlight Zone does not have much light. I think it's one of the uglier stages in Sonic 1, even in the actual game. It would have looked a lot better here if the creator placed some torches around, but it's not that big a deal, I guess. Since it's not a cave, I could mostly see where I was going. So yeah, it's this really open series of platforms and paths. You just kind of run around. It's pretty cool, don't have much to say about it. I do dislike, I guess, how a lot of it only goes down. You can't climb back up really, unless you jump down to the water and go all the way up the ladder at the start. Really annoying for when you're just trying to explore and find everything. And you end up falling a lot and having to climb the ladders a lot. I kinda wish the creator hadn't put water at the bottom. I would rather fall and die than have to climb back up, because at least that'd be instantaneous. Getting to the exit here is really easy, but the emerald is hard as balls. It's hidden below this path in a really sneaky chest, which I think is so stupid. I think the emeralds in this map are at their best when they serve as a reward for some specific, tricky challenge that's really obvious and not too hard to spot. My least favorite emeralds are the ones like this one, that aren't at the end of challenges. They're just in a really hidden place. Thankfully, there's actually very few like this, but the few that there are annoy me to no end. Scrap Rain is a place. The creator decided to put lava at the start of it just for the giggles, but it's not a thing in the game. Okay. There's this quote here which reads, "This is a difficulty curve that will make any game developer vomit in fear," which the creator must have been so proud of, because he mentions it again later on. One detail I really like about Scrap Rain though is these disappearing blocks. They don't actually disappear, they just temporarily turn invisible, but I think they look really cool. They're used both as platforms and skylights through the zone. After you jump into lava, but not really, you get into the meat of Scrap Rain. It's a zone with linear paths with a mix of puzzle and parkour action, but it's actually really open-ended. There's a bunch of different paths you can pick, and they all kind of funnel you to the end of the stage. Even if you fall down a fire pit or something, it doesn't actually feel much like Scrap Rain. Most of the traps are absent. It's mostly just figuring out where to go. There's this closed-off path here, by the way, which tells you can't pass yet. I wonder if this was an alternate route? It kind of feels like the hallway where Eggman makes you fall. Not really sure. I spent like 1,000 years exploring this place, by the way, even a bit in creative, because I could not find the emerald, but it turns out it was hidden in the second section, that being Act 3, which, as you might know if you're a Sonic fan, is just Labyrinth Act 4. Now this section is really fucking bad. Unlike the original Labyrinth, which was manageable, this one is an actual maze and really dark. There's a bunch of ways you can end up here from different parts of the zone, so it's hard to even know where you're meant to be going. There's a section with a bunch of these signs that keep telling you, oh, you're almost there, and when you get to the last sign, it's just a dead end. You're going the wrong way. Successful troll was successful. Oh my god, I wanted to cringe into a ball when I read that. I wasn't even mad. I just felt like getting past this is not too bad, but I did have to walk blindly through the end. The emerald is pretty hidden. It was in an underwater portion of the maze, which was especially dark. The map clues you in that it's got to do with this weird gray block, which is helpful, but even that didn't save me. See, what you need to do is find a button, press it, then go running back over to this dead end and wait for a block to be pushed and reveal the chest with the emeralds. Problem, I could not see the button. My shaders were off, my brightness was on maximum, and even then, I could barely see the chests. I would legit stumble into rooms, not see there was a fucking chest right in front of me, and walk back out. And if I couldn't see a chest, of course I wouldn't see a button. It took me going into creative and placing out torches to spot this fucking thing, which is insane. Why doesn't this map have more torches? Seriously, what is so wrong with having torches? Why does this need to be so dark? I don't remember Sonic 1 being this dark. Well, that's the final emerald for this game, and the final stage for this game. The more avid Sonic fans watching this video might notice that Final Zone is absent from the map, though that's not a big deal of course. Final Zone is really just a boss in the original game. It looks exactly like Scrap Brain. Though speaking of bosses, that's another thing that the creator wanted to include. Nothing game event. At the end of the stage, you swim underground straight to the exit of Sonic 1. This map was made before command blocks originally, so it's very analog, you could say. There isn't much teleporting. You gotta flick a lever to open the Sonic 2 stages, and then step into the main hub of the map, which is this white place. I think inspired by the white space in Sonic Generations. This area has the entrances and exits to each Sonic game, and also chests where you can leave your items after you complete each game. So I think you're supposed to start from scratch every time. I did keep the chili dogs though. The entrance to Sonic 2 is by this area here. Asks you to swap your resource pack, which I promptly did, and then I teleported straight into Emerald Hill. Emerald Hill is also a very iconic stage, and it's kind of like a streamlined green hill. It's very well designed, but it's smaller and more straightforward, and easier to go fast in. To be fair, that can be used to describe Sonic 2 in general. My point is, I think SonicCraft's Emerald Hill is definitely a simplified green hill as well, though a bit to its detriment. It ends up being pretty much Green Hill, but smaller and less interesting. I guess there's some cool platforming challenges, but they're all very simple, there's not much to them. You can find a book in this zone that says the general opinion on the Sonic 2 portion of the map is that while some zones felt more professional, others felt more rushed, which I certainly agree with. Anyways, the objective is crafting a lever again, this time to head to Chemical Plant. I found both the stick and the cobble pretty early on, but then I was off on the hunt. Sonic 2 has a lot of the same items as 1, so the same useless weapons, collectibles, etc. Don't think there's anything new on that front, except of course, the emeralds. There's 7 Chaos Emeralds in Sonic 2, but more than 7 stages, so this time around you kinda have to guess where the emeralds might be, which I find shitty. As far as I can tell, there's nowhere you can go on the internet to find out where the emeralds actually are, or even in which stages they are, and that makes looking for them really difficult. Seriously, in some stages, finding the emeralds was the bane of my existence, and I honest to God think I might be the first person to have ever done it. Granted, I did use creative quite a few times, but more on that later. Well, the emerald in Emerald Hill isn't that hard. There's this little cave you can reach with some simple parkour, and you find a bunch of signs explaining the whole emerald thing I just talked about. And the last sign claims you should have already found the emerald in this stage. When I read that, I thought, I guess it must be outside. It's probably close to somewhere I've already visited. So I went out the cave and searched the stage for half an hour. And I couldn't for the life of me find the fucking emerald. And it turns out it was inside the fucking cave, right in front of the signs, under the water, in an area that was so dark I couldn't see the chest. That was really awful. Before we leave, I'd like to point out that right above Emerald Hill you can see Wing Fortress, which is one of the final stages in Sonic 2. There's actually 2 shortcuts from here. There's this tower you can climb with a ladder, but it leads to an iron door that only opens from the other side. And there's this spring tower, which gives you a jump boost that launches you into the stratosphere and drops you on top of Wing Fortress as a corpse. I do not know what the purpose of this jump pad is, but I do know that you can survive a fall with invincibility, which allows you to skip the near entirety of Sonic 2. Really weird. One last thing, this zone has these weird zigzaggy floating pathways, which are kinda trying to replicate the loops in the actual game. They look kinda funny. I left Chemical Plant in a sunset, which I think looks pretty cool. It does need more lighting, I feel, but oh well. In the game, Chemical Plant is this huge factory with tubes and changing water levels, and that unfortunately was not well adapted. The zone is kind of just a box with a bunch of platforms, which is the case for many zones from here on out. That being said, I think it's still a fun stage. It can feel kind of maze-like in how the paths loop around, but it's also really open in how you can jump from route to route and go up and down. Feels like a better Starlight, honestly. Getting to the end is pretty easy, you can see the exit right there. And as for the emerald, it's at the tallest point of the zone, which I like, it's easy to pick up on. You need to drop into an underwater tunnel, then climb through a different tower and jump onto the prize. Side note, I do like how the main blocks are kinda like the pipes, and they're animated with flowing water even. Wish there was a way to implement the pink water though. I guess the creator could have made a separate resource pack maybe, just for Chemical Plant, but that would have definitely been funky on the player's side. Aquatic Ruin is an interesting zone. I forgot to change the time back to day, but I think it looks alright in Twilight. In the original game, this level has the whole gimmick of either you get good and take the upper path to finish the level quicker, or you mess up and fall into the water and go way slower as a result. How the creator did it is, if you want, you can just walk straight to this water pit here and swim to the exit. It's as simple as that. But if you want the emerald, you need to actually play the stage. Quite a few of the later levels kind of work like this, where the main attraction becomes finding the emerald, which I'm cool with. There's a bit of a puzzle element in this area, which I normally abhor, but it works. Basically, if you go through this other water section, there's a parkour challenge in the upper half of the stage, but you can only complete it if you flick 5 different levers to push the right blocks into place. It's really nothing much, you just gotta look around a bit, but it's pretty cool. As for the parkour, it's really easy, but I actually ran into a bit of trouble because I was jumping too high. Yeah, remember that jump boost I gave myself with cheats? It fucks up a lot of the more cramped jumps in this map because your head just mashes into the ceiling and you can't go into places. Really annoying. I temporarily took off the jump boost here and I eventually just let go of it entirely, as you'll see later. But after dealing with that, it's simple enough. You traverse an upper path where you can actually look down onto the start of the stage, which I really like, and you find the emerald on top of this loop. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, there's no way to go straight to the end from here. Unlike in Sonic Shoe, you are forced to dive into the water to reach Casino Night. Casino Night Zone really feels like a sequel to Spring Yard, both in the original game and in this map. Sonic 2 keeps the springs and bouncers but adds the whole gambling aspect to it, and Sonic Crafts elaborates on the parkour by making it more expensive and a little tougher. Like in Spring Yard, the lower area has a few chests hidden around it, but mostly serves as access for the shortcuts you can open inside the towers. The parkour paths are nice. While they're really not that hard, I found the level design to be pretty labyrinthic. I knew right from the start that the emerald was probably in that big tower right there, but figuring out how exactly I was supposed to get there was fun. It felt rewarding to slowly map out the route and do it faster and faster every time I fell. Also, here's me getting screwed by the jump boost yet again. The emerald really was at the top, and after that I made my way down and went through this little dark tunnel to get to Hilltop. I'm gonna be honest with this one, Hilltop fucking sucks. It's not one of my favorites in the actual game, and even less so here. The first half of the stage happens outside, and it pretty much just has you dropping down from the top and then climbing into this low cave entrance. The cave is, unsurprisingly, very damn dark. It's got a lot of very simple platforming over lava, which I'm grateful for. The lava actually let me see where I was going, but when it wasn't present, I was half blind, missing most of the chests. Speaking of which, the emerald was nowhere to be seen when I got to the end of the level, and the level didn't let me backtrack. So I got into creative, flew all the way back to the start, and discovered the emerald was right there. There's like 2 different paths when you start the stage, one is shorter, one is longer, and the longer one, which I hadn't taken because I couldn't go back, just had the fucking emerald chest, just standing there, not hidden or anything. If the map would have let me climb back up to see what I missed up there, this wouldn't have been too problematic. But it didn't, I needed to go into creative and fly back up there to go get the thing. Well, it's okay. I'm sure the map's design will get a little better from now on. Mystic Cave might be the worst stage in this map. It's barely even a stage. Of course it doesn't have any of the cool traps the actual level has, but it's literally just a cramped, dark cave with some pathways that you can walk on. And your objective is pretty much just walk and figure out where the exit is. Very forgettable. I finished this in like 5 minutes, but of course I had to look for any possible emerald that might be in this stage. Everything in this place blends together, so I'd almost given up on finding one when I caught it in this little nook in a hard to reach area. Also, fun fact, this level is mostly built with retextured wool. So you're supposed to be in a cave, but your footsteps give it away that you're walking on wool, not on rock, which sounds really strange. Oil Ocean Zone, I actually kinda like. It doesn't have the oil ocean, unfortunately, it's actually just soul sand at the bottom, but it's nice enough. It first has you jumping down to ground level, and then you climb back up again to find the exit. Here's Jump Boost fucking me over yet again. Here's me killing squids, and the emerald is at the top of the stage through this very obvious little detour section. That's the 7th emerald, and the last one for Sonic 2. Metropolis Zone is generally criticized as one of the worst zones in Sonic 2. It's got a lot of bullshit enemy placement, annoying enemies in general, and for some reason it's 3 acts long instead of 2. I don't personally despise Metropolis like a lot of people do. I think it's fine in Sonic 2, but the fact that the creator of the map himself apologizes for what we're about to experience should tell you all you need to know about it in SonicCraft. Metropolis Zone in SonicCraft isn't Metropolis at all. There's no machinery, no factory stuff, it's just a bunch of green rooms and stupid lever puzzles. These first 2 levers are dumb, these 4 levers just after literally don't do anything. I couldn't see there was a door right here because it was so dark, and after that you go into a tall room that grants access to a bunch of different rooms, each with its own little lever puzzle that opens one other room. There's a bit of parkour, a bit of fumbling around. It's not the worst thing ever. I wasn't stuck for too long on this, but it's total ass. It doesn't feel like SonicCraft anymore, it just feels like some mediocre parkour map from 2011. So after opening room 5, which is at the top, we can get out into open air again with this beautiful overview of Oyo Ocean, Casino Night, and Default Forest. Sky Chase normally takes place on top of the tornado plane, but obviously that wouldn't happen here, so instead we just run through some clouds all the way to the Wing Fortress, which is fine by me. Wing Fortress feels like it wasn't finished, which I think is my main gripe with the Sonic 2 section in general. It all feels so empty and lifeless, which makes sense. This map doesn't have any enemies or anything, not even traps. But this is just really boring parkour and exploration, and most of the stage takes place inside the ship, which is not how the stage goes at all. You're supposed to be outside, you know, jumping through propellers and thrusters and shit. This is just a very bad stage to cap off this part of the game. I don't like it at all. And yeah, you heard right. This is the last one. The creator planned to include the Death Egg in a later update, but that never happened. Granted, the Death Egg in Sonic 2 is also just a boss stage, kinda like Final Zone, but still, it would have been cool to see it show up. Pretty bittersweet feelings then with this section. The first few stages of Sonic 2 are pretty good and feel a lot like condensed versions of the earlier ones, which don't fully lose the charm they had before. But from Hilltop onwards, it just keeps getting worse. Oyo Ocean might be the saving grace, but it barely saves anything. Sonic 2, the original, has a lot of different zones with different teams, and I think that might have exhausted HWD, because these stages we just went through feel really uninspired and just rushed in a lot of places. I think he definitely realized this too, because one of the many promises he made for the updates was revamping a lot of the stages. Since he didn't, all we're left with is this mess. The resource pack needs to be swapped one last time for Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You probably know already that Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles were originally meant to be the same game, but ended up being split due to time constraints. They're still split here, but they use the same resource pack, and I found them to be overall pretty similar design-wise. Angel Island Zone is the opener, and it's the third foresty zone in the map. As such, it follows the same old rule: explore and find the materials to craft a lever. Angel Island is neat. It's got a lot of hills and little crannies for you to explore. It houses a few new combat items which are still useless, and also the new elemental shields rather than the normal shield. They work as you'd expect. The water shield gives you respiration, the flame shield gives you fire resistance, and the thunder shield actually gives really good feather falling for those riskier jumps. I have to say, I don't like how cramped the zone feels. It's pretty much just a big box of leaves with some openings for sunlight to get in. I get Angel Island is supposed to be more cramped. It's set inside a very dense jungle in the game, but I don't think this was a good way of emulating it. By the way, this is the first zone to have 2 emeralds in it. Sonic 3 has 7 emeralds total, but only 6 stages, so the creator put the first 2 right off the bat. The first one was easy. I just went up this obvious parkour path here to the stage's top. Then I found the lever pieces and the second emerald a little off where the cobblestone was. Not too hard, but I did have to thoroughly explore the area. The lever doesn't actually get you straight out of the stage this time. It opens a secret tunnel to another lever, which opens another tunnel to another lever, which finally removes the blocks blocking the exit. Hydro City's kind of disappointing. It looks pretty, especially with the shaders on, but as you know, it's supposed to be a very fast stage, a lot of which takes place underwater, which does not translate well to Minecraft. Also, the important stuff is out of the water in these brick towers. In them, you can find a bunch of levers you need to flip to get the emerald, and the underwater area is dark, and it does have some secrets like chests and even one of the levers, but it's obviously not very fun to explore, especially without the new swimming mechanics that Minecraft has nowadays. Like Aquatic Ruin, and really many other stages from here on out, this one is pretty easy to get out of, the exit's really obvious, but finding all the levers and getting the Chaos Emerald was tricky. I found Caliburn in this hidden area here, you know, from Sonic and the Black Knight, has sharpness 10, I think it's the strongest weapon in the map, and then I kept on through my lever flipping journey. I had no idea how many levers I had to flip, I didn't even know what they were supposed to open, there were no hints, but I was almost certain there'd be an emerald in this level, so I wasn't giving up. I spent around an hour just on Hydrocity trying to figure it all out, and I fucking couldn't. I used Creator to fly towards this tower here and figure out that the last lever was inside of it. The problem was, I had no idea how to climb this tower. There was this other tower by the sign here which I did know how to climb, and I figured maybe I could jump down from there since it was taller. I couldn't. I tried over and over, and I just couldn't. Eventually I gave myself the jump boost again, and using that, I finally managed to just barely land the jump. But I mean, that's cheating. Using a potion effect for the jump is cheating. I still have no idea how you're supposed to reach this lever without any cheats. And it didn't end there. After flipping it, I still had no clue what the levers were meant to open. So I flew around the map like an idiot until I gave up, dug into the towers, followed the redstone trail all the way to a mysterious hidden piston, briefly fucked up the redstone with water, fixed it back up, and finally figured that this piston was pulling down a block to reveal a chest in the last stretch of the stage, inches before the end of it. That's the last place I would ever think to look. I figured the levers were related to the emerald, that was obvious, but I thought the emerald would be inside the stage, not by the exit. Fuck me! This might be the worst stage in the Sonic 3 section. I hate it. I hate it. It's thankfully succeeded by Marble Garden, which looks quite good, if a little empty. It's got some simple jumps, minecarts in place of the spinning tops from the actual game, and a whole ground area with some empty ruins. The gimmick of this stage is you can leave right from the start if you find the exit, but to get the emerald you must collect 5 different levers and place them all here. I think this is a really neat way to make the player explore it all. Unlike the real Marble Garden, this stage is pretty small, so it didn't take that long, but other than another dark hallway for one of the levers, it was pretty sweet overall. The exit is this little maze section which ends on a tunnel that takes you to Carnival Night. Holy shit, this place is ugly as balls. This is supposed to be Carnival Night Zone, which I don't think is all that pretty in Sonic 3 either. I think it's kind of bloated, but this looks horrendous in comparison. Where's all the white and the red? Why is there so much of this awful looking dark blue? Even the main blocks of the towers look really weird, only the parkour paths and barrels look kind of accurate. This is possibly the ugliest level in this map. I have no idea how this happened. As you can see though, this is a sequel to Spring Yards and Casino Nights, and other than aesthetics, I think it might be the best of the 3. Again, it doesn't really have any mechanics per se, but it's pretty fun to jump around this place and figure out the level design. It's a little tougher than the other 2, I even died a few times. The emerald very predictably was on top of that very thick tower over there, but getting there was actually a real challenge. See, this time to climb the tower, you need to go inside it, and it's pretty much a maze of pathways and ladders. Sometimes you go down, sometimes you go up. The tower has multiple entrances and exits. Sometimes you think you're making progress because you're heading upwards, but then you reach a dead end and have to backtrack. It took me a while, and I even fell off the tower a few times, but it was really cool finding the path. This is the kind of maze I can get behind. By the way, you can see launch bays and ice cap as I hop down the blocks after the emerald. Speaking of which, Ice Cap is a pretty cool stage in concept. It's divided in 2. The first half happens on the surface where you need to search through small little caves and flip 5 levers to open the entrance to a bigger cave. The creator taunts you by leaving the sign here. You're going to hate me after you get through this. And yes I do, HWD. You piece of fucking garbage. So while the surface section of Ice Cap was pretty interesting, the underground section has absolutely zero illumination. I couldn't see for shit, even after turning off the shaders. I couldn't see a chest right in front of me. Thankfully, I think the section is well designed. I could more or less make out the different pathways and where I was at the cave, and I never really got lost. But to get the emerald at the end of the cave, you need to collect 4 different levers scattered around and place them at the end. And I was so blinded by the darkness that I couldn't even see the signs telling me to place them. I had the 4 levers and I still stumbled around in the dark for over 10 minutes trying to find out where to place them. Fuck, I mean seriously, I don't get it. I don't get it. What is this guy's fixation with dark stages? What would be the issue of placing a few torches here? How hard would that be? Ice Cap is pretty and well designed even, but why would you make me go through it without any light? That's not fun, that's just really obnoxious. Also, as one last fuck you from this age, the emerald isn't even named. It's not a Chaos Emerald like the other ones, it's just an emerald, meaning it doesn't stack with the other 5. I'm pretty sure that's not intended, unless this really is a fake emerald and the real one is somewhere else in Ice Cap. Well, even if it was, I wouldn't have gone back to get it. Fuck Ice Cap. You climb out of the snow right into Launch Base, which in Sonic 3 is supposed to launch back the fallen Death Egg station. I wish the creator had built the Death Egg for this, at least in the background, because I think Launch Base looks really empty without it. Like, it has no function, it just looks like a silly castle that's under construction. As Asshole proceeds to make fun of us for having to look for 5 more levers, and acknowledges that this stage is really bad by giving us a map. This is the only zone that gives you a map, because it can get really confusing. That said, I don't think Launch Base is as bad as it makes itself out to be. It's like a better version of Metropolis. You do some parkour, flick a lever, and that lever opens a new pathway somewhere else in the stage. I think there's even a bit too much hand-holding with all these signs that are way less funny than they think they are. Only major issue I had is you can actually get stuck here if you jump back to the start after flicking a few levers. For some reason the first pathway you open closes back up after you progress, but creative mode fixed that for me, of course. The emerald is across a gap in one of the towers. Apparently you need to flip a lever to make a platform over it, but I had already flipped the lever when I got there, so I just grabbed it without issue. The last stretch of Launch Base calls itself a boss fight, and it's pretty much a long parkour challenge upwards. A little tough actually, I quite liked it. And that caps off Sonic 3. I think the author was really self-conscious of Launch Base being bad, but I don't think it was nearly as bad as Ice Cap or Hydro City, much less as bad as the stuff in Sonic 2. I think the Sonic 3 zones are pretty well built and look really great, save for Carnival and I. And though I don't really like Hydrocity and am really annoyed by Ice Cap, I think they're consistently fun otherwise. Unlike the Sonic 1 and 2 sections, which are mostly made of smaller or more linear levels, 3 is almost exclusively wide open maps, with plenty of paths, routes, and challenges that you're incentivized to interact with if you want to grab the emerald. I think by the end of Sonic 3, HWD was really figuring out how to build these and make them fun. You know, not just fancy Minecraft builds for people to gawk at, but actual levels that can be decently entertaining to explore if you're looking for the secrets. It's nothing mind-blowing, to be clear. I stand by my earlier statement that this map is not that high quality in general, but even this late into it, I found myself having legitimate fun, which was kind of surprising after the shit show that Sonic 2 was. This is the end of what I knew about the map also. I played all the way to Launch Base on my first time, then gave up entirely. But starting from Sonic & Knuckles, I'd be entirely blind for the playthrough, and my expectations were a little high now thanks to recent developments. And so, lo and behold, the very best part of this adventure map. So Sonic & Knuckles finally introduces enemies to the game. You're supposed to move off peaceful for this one, but the mobs don't spawn naturally, they're specifically included in each level. As you'll see, this is very rudimentary, and really the few mobs that there are mostly mild inconveniences. I kept Caliburn from Hydro City, which I don't think I was supposed to do, but I didn't care. Mushroom Hill is the fourth and last green type stage, and it's the last one to have that lever hunt, though this time around you don't have to craft it, just find it. I think it might just be my favorite of the four we've had. It's beautiful, it's well designed, there's a bunch of areas you need to reach with tricky jumps, and yeah, not much has changed. Most of this exploration is still completely useless because there's barely any incentive for you to get the items. The only one I ever care about is the emerald really, and even that doesn't do anything. But like I said, I think the creator really understood by this point how to construct these maps, especially the more open ones, in ways that make them actually pretty fun to roam through. You look at a chest somewhere hard to reach and you start wondering, how do I get there? And then you go on and try to find out. This zone has some oddities. There's this button that makes rings come out of the ground. I think this is the only point in the game where that happens. There's this funny XD room full of levers, and one of them opens the chest with an axe from the Mushroom Hill mini-boss. And you have the return of the loop-de-loops even, which are pretty small here. You need to jump onto one of them to reach the emerald though. The lever in this stage blows up a wall, which is nice of it. And this path takes us to what I think is supposed to be a spring. It's a lot like the one in Emerald Hill, except it doesn't kill you and sends you to Flying Battery Zone instead. Flying Battery is awesome in Sonic & Knuckles, maybe my favorite level due to how speedy it gets. It's my least favorite this section of the map though, and that's because, to no one's surprise, it's really dark. I had to keep my shaders off for most of it. That doesn't mean it's bad, necessarily. It unfortunately takes place entirely inside the flying ship, so it's a lot like Wing Fortress in that regard, but it's much more interesting than it. This place is like a labyrinth of hallways, not just horizontally but also vertically. It has these pretty tough parkour sections on ladders for you to move up and down through the ship. It has fire spewing dispensers and silverfish posing as the mouses from the original game. I spent way more time than I needed here looking for a possible emerald, and I didn't even fight it, but if I hadn't done that, Flying Battery would have probably been a pretty good experience. There's multiple paths you can take to find the exit, and they're all fun and good. Sandopolis is the best stage in this map. I am not joking. This must come as a shock, because in Sonic & Knuckles, Sandopolis is seen as kinda bad and slow, but that's not the case here at all. The first half of Sandopolis happens outside, in the desert, like in the game. The map tells you right at the start that you're supposed to kill the Guardian, this Iron Golem fellow. I decimated him with my bow, and he dropped the lever. But there's also this tunnel you can take and then climb out of to ascend onto the sandy ruins. And there's some pretty cool jumping up to the emerald. With the lever, you can open the pyramid and begin the second half, which has a pretty cool gimmick. You know how in the game the pyramid goes dark and you need to pull the levers to flick the lights back on, and there's ghosts going after you whenever you're in darkness? The creator fucking did that. The idea in this part is you have to run as fast as you can through the pyramid, hitting buttons as you pass them by, so you can always keep the lights on. If they ever go out, ghost zombies will start spawning trying to kill you. The effect of this is that this half of Sandopolis effectively turns into a race. You're racing against the darkness, trying to stay in light. I wasn't in any actual danger, the ghosts weren't very strong, but I was like psychologically induced to keep the lights on at all times, which led me to speed through the stage, and that felt really nice. It wasn't just an exploration map anymore, it actually felt kind of like Sonic. And I had so much fun exploring this area. It probably helped that I finally found a shader pack that let me see in the dark, and also set the brightness of my monitor to max. This would normally hurt my eyes, it was pretty much a flashbang at that point, but for this stage, it worked. Even if the lights went out, I wasn't completely lost. And Sandopolis isn't deep at all, it's still mostly an empty Minecraft building, but somehow it just felt right. Like the map finally truly clicked for me, and I started really liking it. This made me wonder how a speedrun of Sonicraft would look like. Probably not that fun most of the time, but maybe I should try it someday. There is another emerald in this area, by the way. It's behind a few hidden doors that you open with levers, but it's nothing too obtuse. I think the emerald placement is mostly really good in this final part of the map. And for the first time, the stage exit is actually a teleport button. I don't know why, but it TPs you to Lava Reef, which is the prettiest area in the map. It is very dark, but since I was using the new shader pack, it worked out, and the light of the lava looked so damn gorgeous. Lava Reef is absolutely the best cave type level in this map. It's wide open with a lot of different paths, little tunnels, some tricky parkour over the lava. The flame shield is really useful here, obviously. Then the last major cave you head into is the crystal area of Lava Reef, which is pretty short here, but it looks so nice, has a more bluish hue, and houses this crystal weapon for some reason. There's no enemies in this stage, but I'm kinda glad I got to experience it like this. I had to backtrack to find the emerald, but it was in this sneaky little tunnel just before the crystals. I really like how big this level is. Felt really nice. Hidden Palace is up, which, as per the game, is barely a level. We do some really simple jumps and then hop into an arena to fight Knuckles the Kid. Knuckles is just a really strong zombie with some weird sound effects. I killed him almost instantly with my axe. It was very underwhelming, which I guess is appropriate for the Knuckles fan. I wish the creator had built the Emerald Altar though, but nope, it's just Knuckles in a square room. But he did add the painting with the Supersonic Prophecy, which is pretty gnarly. You might know that the last stage in Sonic & Knuckles is the Death Egg Zone, which is an actual full stage, unlike its appearance in Sonic 2. Unfortunately, it has not been built here, not in the Sonic 2 section, nor in the SNK section, which is a shame. From the looks of it, it seems it'll never be built, because the map is pretty abandoned. But even then, the map, thankfully, does end on a high note. Sky Sanctuary is just good. The stage is comprised of a bunch of floating platforms in the middle of nowhere, which is actually appropriate for Sky Sanctuary. It's kinda like a maze, but not really, because you can always see where you're going. And it has multiple levels, which you can change between either by falling down or jumping with one of these beacons that are mimicking the orbs in the actual game. Depending on which platform you want to get to, you have to do a little bit of jumping between levels to drop in the right place. It's just open and fun. The jumps aren't too difficult except on the ascent to the Chaos Emerald, which is this really tough parkour challenge. Sucks that you have to climb all the way back up if you fall, but I used creative to fly back up. I was getting kinda tired by then. Still felt really rewarding to reach the top. And this is the end of the map. The signs promise you there will be more, but as I said many times, the promises were never implemented. This map has gone over a decade now without any sort of updates. You probably noticed that I missed 2 emeralds in the SNK section. Yeah, I had to go back for them. I actually had to use creative mode because I honestly had no idea where the hell they were. I spent a lot of time looking for a second emerald in Lava Reef, was not there. I eventually returned to Flying Battery then because I hadn't found anything there, and it turned out there was a hidden hole on the wall in this empty room which I had not seen before because it was too dark for me. The emerald was at the end. The final emerald, as I found out a little later, was also in Sky Sanctuary, behind this cluster of platforms just sitting there. I think this is the one emerald in the last section that has really bad placement, but I assume it would have been relocated to the Death Egg whenever that was ever built. I'll give it a pass, I guess. With this little hunt over, I had obtained all 27 Chaos Emeralds in Sonicraft. I cheated for a few of them, but even with cheats, it was still difficult. I'm pretty sure I'm the first recorded person to have collected them on YouTube, possibly even the first person ever to have collected them from a quick search in the forums, but I obviously can't confirm that. The intention of the creator was for the emeralds to unlock special stages in this little area in the white space, but none of that was built. There's just a chest with some items here. So yeah, kind of underwhelming. No bombastic finale or anything, because the map is not done, it's just dropped, and will likely remain dropped for many years to come. Even so, this was an incredible journey for me, and I hope it was at least semi-interesting for whoever's watching this. This map is so obscure, at least nowadays, and Minecraft and Sonic isn't an intersection that comes up that often, so I really don't expect this video to get any views whatsoever. It was really a passion project on my part, even more so than my normal videos, and I think it was fucking worth it. I finally got to finish this fragment of my childhood, and I found that Sonicraft is actually a pretty cool map. It's haphazard, amateurish, old, infuriating at times, but playing it through the end made me realize how much passion and soul was put into every part of this map, even the really bad parts. I think it really gets through. This map is not good. A lot of times it isn't even tolerable, but it was made, as far as I know, by a single person, and it still turned out with so much love for both Sonic and Minecraft. I absolutely had rose-tinted glasses on when playing through this, and I probably wouldn't have enjoyed the experience as much without them, but I did have them on, and I did enjoy it so much. HWD, if you're out there watching this, I'm really glad you made this map. I've been very critical of it in general, but even through all of its faults, I think Sonicraft is something really special, something unique to the old Minecrafts, to the years that have gone by. Something that very few people ever experienced because this map is really unknown, but that I'm certain had to have been special for at least a few. It certainly was, for me. Anyways, I'll be back to Castlevania next video. Sorry for this weird interruption. Bye.